when they come to me, they say, "Hey, Tan, like I wish I were more hours in a day. I wish I was more productive. Like, what can I do?" And so there's a methodology that I teach called the T framework, which stands for time, energy, and attention.
Welcome to 7 to 8, our special series on 7 to 8 figure entrepreneurs. In this special series, I interview $1 million, some $10 million, and even some $1 million business owners who uncovered their twists and turns in their entrepreneurial adventure in order to help you to avoid the potholes and stick to the fast track. Welcome now to center stage, our next special guest. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelec, and I'm super glad that you're here with us today because I am here with my most amazing guest, Tan. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Excellent. So give us a highlight of who you are and what you love to do for business.
Yeah, so I'm a high school dropout. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And so I ended up traveling through Asia for a little bit. And I started a website where I was just publicly documenting what I was learning. And the domain is asianefficiency.com. And it's because people around me observed that it was pretty effective and efficient. And I thought, hey, you know what? Let's register this domain name. And I just committed to writing a blog post every single week. And this is 2011, the start of many blogs. And so by accident, it turned into an online business where I teach people how to be productive at work and in life. And I do this through online courses and programs and offsite trainings and in-person workshops. And so I've been doing this for like 12, 13 years now. And I'm very passionate about it still to this date. I'm very fortunate to do something that I'm very passionate about. And so most of my business is mostly done online.
Very cool. Okay, you answered all the questions I have, and the show's over. So we know how you got into it. And when you're working with people now, what is that experience like? What are they hoping to get out of that experience with you? And how do you navigate that? That was 20 questions. Go ahead and answer any way you see fit.
Typically, when people come to me, they are overwhelmed. They don't have a lot of time in their life. There's this over commitment in their life. Oftentimes, they don't realize that. And so when they come to me, they say, "Hey, Tan, like I wish I were more hours in a day. I wish I was more productive. Like, what can I do?" And so there's a methodology that I teach called the T framework, which stands for time, energy, and attention. So the idea is if you want to be really productive, you have to maximize your time, maximize your energy, and maximize your attention. And most people, when they come to me, they lack one of three or sometimes all three. And so what I'm looking for is what is the first thing that we can do to maximize your time, because oftentimes that's an easy win that we can give people. And then what can we do to maximize your energy? Because if you're not having the energy to do stuff, even if you have the time to do it, it simply won't get done. It's oftentimes when we come home from work or after a long day, we might have like a side project, or we come home and we want to do all these other things for our family and kids. But if we're so tired, then nothing will get done. And then we tend to procrastinate, we put things off. And so there's all these things you can do to stimulate your energy levels and keep them high throughout the day. And when it comes to attention, which is oftentimes the more advanced part for most people, once they kind of maximize their time and energy, oftentimes this is very true for entrepreneurs. We oftentimes get overwhelmed and we have a lot of options of opportunities that we can pursue, right? You can do Facebook ads to grow your business. You can do Instagram ads. You can do stuff on Pinterest. You can do SEO. Maybe you should update an old product and revamp it. Maybe you do a website redesign. Like there's so many things you could be doing as an entrepreneur. So how do you prioritize and focus on what actually moves the needle for you and your business? And that's oftentimes the thing that entrepreneurs are struggling with the most is how do I focus on the few things that move my business forward rather than the 100 tiny things that might not actually make a difference.
Absolutely. I was just saying to my partner the other day, I wish I had 6 lifetimes to live because there's so many other professions I want to master. It's like, you just, when you start to realize that you're capable of doing things, it's like, okay, we are not doing this lifetime. This is the way we're going right now. Awesome. So let's break them down. I love the acronym because I want to sit back and drink tea while you get all of this organized in life. So when it comes to time, what do you find is the biggest thing that stops people from really looking at their week and going, or the year or the life and going, okay, this is what I want to do with this? What
So
stops
there's
them?
two things I would say. One is people are oftentimes reactive instead of proactive. And so if you're being reactive, what that simply means is you don't have a clear vision of where you want to go. And so when an email comes in or someone asks you to do something, or there's something that all of a sudden comes on your plate as an opportunity, you can't compare it and say, how do I make a decision around what's in front of me? So to give you an example, if your goal is to lose weight and it's the most important thing in your life, then if someone says to you, hey, do you want to go on this trip to Las Vegas and then have like buffets every day with me? Now that sounds like a great trip. Don't get me wrong. Vegas is always a good time, and eating buffets is like one of my favorite
Always a good
things.
time.
But if I'm focused on my health and fitness, and especially losing weight, then that doesn't sound like a great match, right? And it sounds so simple, but if we don't have a goal or a vision of where we want to go or what we like to accomplish, then it's hard to make a decision to say, what do I say yes to and what do I say no to? And so if we want to be proactive, we have to have a sense of where am I going? What's my goal? What's the outcome? What's the vision that I have for this? Because once you have that, then you can make a plan for what you're going to do every single day or every single week to move forward, and also say no to things that don't align with that. So as entrepreneurs, we all know that creating a vision for our company is really important. And if it gets a little bit blurry, that's oftentimes when we get unfocused. We start to procrastinate. We start to do things that don't move the needle at all, but it feels productive in the moment, right? So we tend to do a lot of busy work. And it's simply because we don't have a clear vision of where we would like to be. And so when it comes to maximizing your time, the best thing you can do is actually creating a very good vision for yourself for the next week, for the next month, for the next 90 days, and just making sure that you're aligned with the activities with the time you have available. So if growing your business is the most important thing in your life, then I want to be able to look at your calendar and say, are you spending most of your time working on your business? And are you then also working on the right things? And if that is a true reflection on your calendar, then I know you are making a good use of your time. However, if that is unaligned, so if growing your business is the most important thing, but you're vacationing 5 days out of the week, there's a mismatch there, right? So we want to make sure our activities that we do on a day-to-day and weekly basis align with what we're trying to accomplish. And so that's the first thing that we can do to maximize our time. And then the second thing that I've seen with so many people, and this is going to sound funny, but most people, they spend way too much time on email. They probably spend 3, 4, 5 hours a day on email, when in fact, I believe that you can get your email done in 30 minutes or less per day, because nobody makes a lot more money or revenue from just sitting behind your computer monitoring their email inbox. It's actually from building stuff and doing stuff.
What?
And so unless we're a spammer, of course, then that might be a different story. But
Okay.
in most people's cases, I would say, hey, what can we do to minimize the time you spend in your inbox so you have more time for the things that grow your business, your brand, your product line, right? Sales, top line sales, and so on. And so what I recommend people do is, instead of keeping your email inbox open all day long, check your email twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening, so that you can get a lot of stuff done in between, and limit your time every time you check your email up to, like, let's say 30 minutes. So if you check your email for 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon, that's at most 1 hour. And in between, you'll have so much more free time to do things that will move your business forward.
Nice. I love that. And I'm probably the worst person for email, because I might get to it once a week. I have people looking at my email though. So like, and they're like, you didn't get back to me. I'm like, oh, sorry. Text. Get on with me.
Yeah, I check email maybe once a week as well. But I'm also very fortunate that I have an executive assistant that kind of helps me with my email. So if you're an entrepreneur, and I would say if you make over $200,000 in revenue, or if you're self-employed, then that would be almost like your income. Then I think that's a great starting point to hire an executive assistant part-time for even 5 hours a week. And those 5 hours will be some of the best money you'll spend, because in the early stages, you have to replicate yourself as much as possible as an entrepreneur. And so if you are way beyond $200,000 ready and you don't have an executive assistant, I think you're missing out on a huge opportunity to scale yourself, but also your business.
Nice. Love that. So when it comes to the energy we have in a day, I find that one kind of funny too, because I, for myself, find that my energy at about 2 o'clock right now is at its peak. Like for the next 2 hours, I am on fire. I can get so much done. This is my best time of my day. And at about 10 o'clock at night, which is super weird. But you can only get so much done in 2 hours. So when somebody kind of identifies, maybe they're an early bird and they just love waking up at 5 a.m. and they're productive at 6, what do you encourage them to do at that time when they're at their best?
So I would always align your most creative times of the day and your most alertness with the tasks that are most important to you. Ideally, we want to align both, right? So if you feel like you're most alert and creative at 2, let's make sure we schedule tasks around that time that require a lot of thinking. So that could be copywriting, it could be brainstorming a new idea for like a product, it could be a marketing campaign, right? There's all these creative things we have to do. This is not the time to do administrative work for your company, right? Because it doesn't oftentimes require a lot of brain power. It's just a matter of time to do stuff. And so everyone has different times of the day. And this is actually a programmed thing inside of a body because it's called their circadian rhythm. And it's basically an internal clock that we all have that runs 24 hours. And it kind of manages the processes of when we go to bed, when we wake up, what happens when we eat and when we get sunlight, and it manages all these different processes. But all of this is to say, it's actually a very predictable pattern of when we feel most alert. And you'll start to notice that everyone has like a very similar schedule in that sense. So like you said, some people are night owls, some people are morning people, and some people are somewhere in between. But we all intuitively know that there's certain parts of the day when we're most focused and most energized. And so I would encourage you to think about, okay, if you know that you're going to be most energized during this time, then think about of everything that's on your to-do list, what is the most challenging task on that to-do list? And then align it with that particular time. So to give you an example for me, I'm most alert between 8 and 11 in the morning. I'm more of a morning person. So I tend to do a lot of creative writing and creative work during this time. Whereas in 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like the opposite of you. I'm like an absolute mess. Like I cannot do anything.
I just want to do podcasts so I don't have to think.
Yeah, so I tend to work out during this time because it doesn't require any thinking, but I still trying to get my body moving and stay healthy that way. But then I get another surge around 6 o'clock or so, where sometimes I'll do, a little bit more work, or sometimes I'll just take that time off and do something else like for personal use. And so if you can be self-aware enough to know what those creative time zones are of the day, then think about what can you schedule during that time that's most demanding of you. And if you can align both, I think you're going to be in a great spot.
Nice. I love it. So talk to me about procrastination, the P word, the other P word. How do you help people to kind of identify what's going on there and navigate it?
So what's interesting about procrastination is that there's not one solution to fix it, because procrastination is a symptom of a bigger thing, right? So procrastination can stem from you feeling really tired and just having very little energy in a day. That's an easy way to start procrastinating on stuff. Sometimes we procrastinate on stuff because we just don't enjoy doing a particular task. Like I don't enjoy doing my taxes, and that's in April I always go, hey, CPA, can we extend till October and do this like every single year? Right. So like there's certain things we just don't enjoy doing. And so we tend to procrastinate on that. But also sometimes we procrastinate because we just don't have a clear vision of why this matters. Even though we know it is important, if we don't have a clear vision for it, then we just tend to push it away or move it forward or postpone it because we just don't realize how important it is and why it's important for our goals or for our vision. And so that's just a lack of clarity. And so when I work with a client, I'm trying to figure out like, what's the root cause of them procrastinating? Is it energy? Is it lack of a vision? Is it something that they just don't particularly enjoy doing? I would say those are the most common factors. And so if you're listening to this right now and you go, oh, well, it's definitely one of those three, then you kind of know what the root cause of it is, right? So if it's something that you don't enjoy doing, consider delegating it, consider paying somebody else to do the work for you, right? As entrepreneurs, we have to learn to start delegating if we want to grow our business. And one of the first things you can delegate is the stuff that you don't particularly enjoy doing. But guess what? When you hire somebody, oftentimes they do this work that they do enjoy doing. And so if you can create that win-win situation where you pay them and they get to do the work that they enjoy, whereas you don't, everybody wins in that sense. And that's essentially what building a team really is all about. And so that's one thing. If you just lack energy, well, that's relatively easy to fix. And the number one force multiplier for energy is sleep. So just getting better sleep and a little bit more sleep every single night will oftentimes eliminate a lot of those energy saps that we have in a day. And you'll feel a lot more energized and focused to continue to do the work that needs to be done. So if you have trouble sleeping 7 to 9 hours, everyone has a different use or different requirement for amount of sleep that they need. Again, this is where self-awareness will come in, and you'll see me say this a lot on my own podcast. Self-awareness is the ultimate productivity hack. If you understand how you work and work best and can build your life around that, then that's, to me, is the ultimate productivity hack in life. So if you know that you only need 6 hours, then, design your life in such a way, right? But some people need more than that. So everyone's going to be different. I personally need 7.5. That's when I feel my best. And if I sleep like 6.5, I just don't feel as sharp as I could be. And that's also when I notice that I'll start to procrastinate a little bit more. And then the third aspect of, lack of vision. If you have a task in front of you and you just don't feel compelled to work on it, and you feel like it's a lack of vision of why this matters, then ask yourself multiple times, why is this task so important to you? Right. And if you can't come up with a good reason, then it's probably not worth doing. However, if you question yourself enough times to say, hey, why do I have to do my taxes? You might realize, oh, you know what? If I don't, I might get penalized a few $1,000s. And that might be a good enough reason for you then to kick it in gear, right? But if there's otherwise no good reason for you to do it, then either don't do it at all, eliminate it, or again, try to delegate it to somebody else.
I love it. And if the FBI shows up looking like Men in Black at your house, you probably want to get your taxes done.
That's right.
So talk to me about sleep, because I find this fascinating. So I have no issue getting enough sleep. My head hits the pillow and I'm out. I'm dead. And when the alarm goes off, it's like, oh, okay, it's time to wake up. I will wake up. But it's I find the concept of people not getting enough sleep fascinating, in that I assume that they're not getting enough sleep because they're worried about things. And that's why the brain doesn't shut off when their head hits a pillow. But talk to me about why most people who don't get enough sleep, what are they actually going through?
I think there's a couple of factors there. One is, especially in entrepreneurship circles, there's this idea that, we have to hustle and we have to work and sacrifice sleep, and sleep is for the dead, right? We can do that much later. And that's an idea or culture that's been around for a long time. And, sometimes when you see very successful entrepreneurs do stuff like that, you go, oh, that's the way to do things then, right? But not everybody is like them. And so research has just shown so many times that everyone has a different requirement of sleep. And so when you see how others can perform at 5 hours per night, that might be great for them, but not great for you, right? So that doesn't mean that the apples for apples here. So you have to figure out what your requirement is. And I think everybody tends to know, especially when they can sleep in on the weekends and they just don't set an alarm clock whatsoever. You start to realize like, hey, I actually sleep a lot more when I don't set an alarm clock. And you kind of know for yourself what that number parameter is. So figure it out first. Like you were saying, if you are stressed and there's a lot on your mind, it's hard to shut off the brain, right? So one of the ways we can address this is actually what I call an evening ritual. So it's the idea that before you go to bed, I want you to think about how when we start our day, typically we always talk about a morning routine, right? We wake up, we kind of go through a set of things that we do to get ourselves ready for the day. Think of your evening routine as the complete opposite of that. So it's you shutting down at the end of the day. And so instead of just, sitting behind your computer all day and then deciding to go to bed, that typically doesn't work. We kind of need that transition period as well to kind of like relax the mind, relax the body, so we can prepare ourselves for a great night of sleep. And so one of three things I would always recommend people do is, the first is no screens in the last 60 minutes of the day. So no phone, no laptop, no TV, none of that. And the reason is we need this particular hormone called melatonin to help us fall asleep. And many of us know about this hormone because sometimes we may take the supplement to help us fall asleep. However, it's a hormone that we naturally produce in our body. However, it doesn't get produced when there's light. So if there's light in our vision, it doesn't produce melatonin. So we want to eliminate light as much as possible, which is a signal to our body to say, hey, it's getting dark. It's probably bedtime. Let me start secreting some melatonin, which helps us fall asleep. So that's why I recommend no light in the last 60 minutes of the day, ideally no screens. The second thing I would recommend is, I'm sure everyone has been in a situation where you lay down in bed and you go, oh my gosh, my mind is going 100 miles an hour. Like, what's happening? If that's the case, one of the things I recommend is that people journal. So keep a journal next to your bed and just write down everything that's on your mind. So we like to call this a brain dump. It's literally just, oh, I have to call back Sally tomorrow. Or, hey, I didn't check my email today. I wonder what's in there. Or tomorrow I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Or, hey, I forgot to do this. Let me make sure that I do that tomorrow. Like, whatever is on your mind, just write it down. And by the time you're done, your brain is just so clear and empty that it will be really easy for you then to fall asleep. So that's the second thing I would recommend, is to start some sort of journaling habits. And then the third one is whatever you can do to prepare your body to be relaxed is something I would always recommend. So for me, it could be something like stretching, or I have a foam roller at home, which I like to use to kind of like relax myself. There's certain yoga poses you can do to help relax the body. Some of us might even have like a massage gun, like a TheraBody that you can use. Like, whatever you can do to relax your body, it helps you fall asleep faster, but also it helps improve the quality of your sleep. So no matter how busy or stressed you are, these are things that everybody can do. And guess what? They're oftentimes free. So it doesn't really cost you anything. It's just you just have to put your mind to it and say, hey, let me make sure I spend the last 60 minutes of my day shutting down so that I can get great quality sleep.
Nice. Love it. So give us an example of a Cinderella story of one of your clients.
Ooh, I've had so many. So let me think about one. Okay. So I had a text message recently from a client. His name is Scott. And he sent me a text message and he said, hey, Tan, I actually haven't been following your website for the last 2 years because after working with you, I got so productive that I got promoted multiple times and I've been making really good money because he was one of the top loan officers at a Fortune 100 company, which is a major bank here in the country. And he said, hey, I just became so productive that I didn't need you guys anymore. So it's been 2 years now. You just popped up in my head and I just wanted to send you a text message saying, thank you for everything you've done. And I go, wow, that's amazing. Like, that to me is the ultimate success story. And so the way this came about is Scott was always somebody who was a hard worker and he was very determined. And his formula for success was whatever needs to be done will be done. And I will just work really hard. But it gets a point where working hard doesn't always work anymore. And we have to work smarter. And so the challenge that Scott had was he was working like 60 hours a week for 6-7 years in a row. And he wasn't able to take his family on vacation at all, even though he was earning all this income. And so it kind of started to affect his marriage a little bit. And he had 2 children. And obviously that mattered most to him when he realized that, it could have been taken away from him. And so he said, hey, I need to do something about this where I can work 40 hours or normal hours per week and still get all my stuff done. And so we actually made one tiny shift, which was actually two shifts. One is, I'm sure you know this as an entrepreneur yourself. Sometimes when you end your workday, you say to yourself, oh, I wish I had done more. I wish I did X, Y, and Z. I knew I could have done more, right? But sometimes we score ourselves pretty poorly. And the reason is because we don't create a scorecard for ourselves to say what makes for a productive day. So there's this concept I teach called a daily target, and which simply means before you start working today, ask yourself this question: how do I know I had a productive day? And whatever the answer to that question is, that's your scorecard for the day. Because every day is going to be a little bit different. So there's not one unique metric for you to say, hey, if I spend 2 hours per day on creative work, that's considered a productive day. Sometimes you have meetings, sometimes you have to travel, sometimes you have to do other things. Like, every day is going to be a little bit different. And so you want to be able to answer that question before you start working, so that when you finish your workday, you can ask yourself, hey, did I actually accomplish what I set out to do? And if the answer is yes, then great, you had a productive day. If the answer is no, what can we do better tomorrow to make sure that I will accomplish my intention that I set out? And because as knowledge workers, oftentimes we don't have a particular outcome every single day that's the same. We have to adapt to that as well. So that's one thing. And that's something I worked with Scott on, which is just answering that question. And so instead of him working 8-10 hours a day, he realized, well, if I hit this particular outcome, then I know I had a productive day. And then he could stop working and then go home, which prevented himself from working, 8, 9, 10 hours a day to be able to get it down to like 5 or 6 or 7 hours per day. So that's one simple thing that everyone can implement. And then the second thing was just, he would send me a text message every day when we were working together that he had lunch, because he would oftentimes skip lunch. And so we had to make this really simple tweak to say, hey, send me a photo of your lunch today. So that forced him to go out of the office to kind of reset himself, have a lunch break, and then come back, have a fresh mind, be able to work, move forward. And those were 2 simple tweaks, but it made all the difference.
That's kind of hilarious. Sounds like, all of a sudden you're his mom. It's like, did you have your lunch today? Are you well behaved? It's good. That is awesome. I love it. So what are some of the stumbling blocks that somebody might be having as they're listening to us right now going, oh my God, Tan, I need you so badly in my life?
What do you mean with stumbling blocks?
So what are they going through? What issues are they having that, other than working 40 hours, 40 hours? I can't fathom working 60, 80 hours. I can't even fathom working 40 hours. I'm like, who does that? So other than working too many hours for them in a week, what are some of the things that they're going through?
Well, I think the most common thing I see is that people are overcommitted. So they say yes more often than they say no. And that leads to just so many challenges and problems down the line. And people overcommit because they don't understand the best use of their time in any given day or any given week. And also they don't have really good clarity about what's the thing that they're trying to focus on and what's the most important thing in their life. And so they're being reactive, like I mentioned earlier. And so if you're being overcommitted, then you're being stressed out every day. You're doing way too much. You're working more hours than you should. And we feel this sense of guilt as well, and this weight on our shoulders where we feel like we have to do all these different things because sometimes it's being asked of us, or we have too many clients, or we said yes to way too many things. And then we go, oh my gosh, like now I have to work on the weekends and on Sundays to do this. And so we actually have to tell a lot of people to say no more often. And they find that very difficult, not because they don't know what to say, but it's because they lack the clarity about what actually matters most. And this is why vision, and when you read any book on entrepreneurship, vision is always one of the most important things you'll read and learn about. And I find it so true for not just business, but also for your personal life, that the more clarity we have around that, the easier life becomes. But if we don't have clarity around that, life becomes a lot more challenging. And so that's one of the first things I always work with when I work with new clients is, how do we make sure that vision for you is very clear, whether it's your own business, your own career, whatever path you choose in life. Let's be really clear on that and carve out what that path looks like for you, and then walk that path. And everything else that comes along your way, it's easy to maybe take a detour every now and then if you want to, because it's your choice. Or you're going to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to keep walking this straight line because I know it's the fastest path to where I want to be.
Nice. I love it. Well, peeps, if you're listening to this right now and you run your own company or you aspire to run your own company, you have to talk to Tan, because there's no way I'm going to let you work 60 hours a week. That's just not happening. So I know our listeners are going to want more from you. How do they start their journey with you?
Yeah, I have a ton of free resources and a newsletter at asianefficiency.com. So you can go there, and I've written almost like 800 articles at this point. So there's a lot of free content that you can consume. And I also have a podcast called The Productivity Show. It's the #1 podcast around productivity. We just surpassed 13 million downloads, and something I'm very excited and happy about.
Good for you.
Proud
That's
of.
awesome.
And so, it's comes out every single week with new productivity tips, apps, recommendations, and so on. So go check it out, The Productivity Show.
I love it. Love it. Love it. So I get to ask you now, at what point in life did you know that you were a special kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
I was 11 or 12 years old, and I read this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. And it went against everything my parents ever told me, because they said, Tan, you have to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a dentist. And when I was reading this book, I felt like I was reading like a forbidden book that said, hey, you should start your own business and not rely on other people's, companies, and don't get a job, start a business. And that's what I did when I was 12 years old. I started a web development company. I taught myself how to code and was making websites for people. And that's when I knew, like, okay, this is probably the path I want to go on.
Awesome. Congratulations. And congratulations to the younger you for taking that initiative to be coding and writing websites. That's awesome. Love it.
Thank you.
Cool. So you have been absolutely awesome. Any last words for our peeps?
I hope this was helpful. If there's one thing you take away from today, I hope that you implement it as soon as possible. I always like to talk about speed of implementation. So don't just consume information, but also implement it. So if there's one thing that stood out for you today, go implement it today. And I think you're going to see some great results.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I know how valuable it is.
Thank you.
Awesome. Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelec. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show and share it with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs grow. Thank you for listening to 7 to 8. If you're interested in upping your speaking game, be sure to connect with our guests with the links in the show notes, and connect with me to see how we can help you get your tech done for you and help your speaking dreams come true.